Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. As we're seeing the market correct, it's important that we're looking at the leaders inside of the market, looking at Salon, looking at Chainlink, looking at some of these high cap cryptos that have actually been outperforming Bitcoin on the way up, because oftentimes these point to the direction the rest of the market is about to take as well. What we're seeing is these markets have outperformed Bitcoin the entirety to begin this cycle, and on top of that, they've started to actually show early signals of reversals as well. As we're watching these reversals take place, it's important to understand which ones are going to lead the market so that we know when to position ourselves back into certain cryptos. I'm going to break it down. I got a bunch of charts that explain exactly what's about to happen, so make sure you stay all the way to the end because I know that you're not going to want to miss this information. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so as we're here looking at Bitcoin to start off today's video, I think it's important that we're talking a little bit about this correction that we're seeing and talking a little bit about one of my prior videos that I made explaining how this was going to be the first time that we've really had any sort of real resistance since we broke out right here. Because when we were watching our prior consolidation, we knew that from the range high here at like $31,500, we pretty much didn't have any real resistance until we got all the way up to the top at about 37,500. And it was exactly what happened with Bitcoin's price. We pretty much just held this ascending support exactly to that level before we broke out. And so now that we're seeing this sell-off, in my opinion, it just puts us in a brand new sort of range. And this is the range that we're going to be looking at. I'm going to remove all of the red so you guys can see it a little better. This is the new range where we have the range high of resistance. That's where we just pulled back from. And then we also had the prior resistance inside of our prior consolidation, which is now going to be support. So I think that we're just mainly going to be chopping around inside of this consolidation until we eventually make our way back up to the top of that lower high, being $48,500. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin peak back up a little bit higher, maybe even being a little over 50,000, 52,000 about. That would be something that would catch most people by surprise, but I kind of think that, Bitcoin is going to surprise a lot of people going into this next cycle. Now, we've seen Bitcoin make such a big move, but there's been certain altcoins that have actually outperformed it this entire way. In my opinion, those are going to be the best altcoins we can look at for trying to identify when the trend is going to shift, because they've always reversed earlier than Bitcoin, and then they've outperformed Bitcoin after the reversal. So as we're watching them do this, I think now is an important time to break down their charts that show exactly the direction that these are going to be taking, whether we have more downside coming or whether we actually are going to be seeing more continuation ahead. Alrighty guys, the first one we're going to be talking about today is going to be Salon. We've been talking about Salon considering the fact it's been one of my favorite long-term holds. It's been one of my better long-term holds to start this cycle. My group accumulated this at $15 and $12 inside of the FTX collapse, and it was a set it forget it type of hold. But one of the things that I talked about in my last video was saying how once we come up to the bottom of this lower high being resistance, I was expecting we'd see a correction, and that's the exact level that we tagged before this sell-off came in. I don't find it coincidental. That was really our first resistance that we had since we broke out from this level being $58. We were consolidating on that level as support, so we expected continuation ahead, but we didn't have any resistance until right here. So to see us pulling back, in my opinion, we're in the same sort of situation that Bitcoin is, where we're kind of just inside of this new range. And this is our new range right here. We're going to be consolidating between resistance and between support. But the way that I see this market, if we dive into the shorter time frames, I actually think that most likely this is ending up doing one of my favorite sort of reversal patterns. And what that is called an expanded flat correction. Now, this is an Elliott wave theory correction, and it's one of the better sort of corrections you're going to be able to trade inside of a bull market because you're going to see it happen quite often. And I think that that's what's playing out inside of the market. Now, when we're analyzing these, it's comprised of 2 ABC corrections and then 5 waves back down to the mid-range. When I look at Salon, it's doing that exact same setup. We saw an ABC there, and I think that we saw an ABC there, but the difference is the secondary ABC takes us above that mid-range. Notice how the top of the move is here, but we actually made a higher high above that. Even though it's a corrective wave, sometimes that takes place. All we're watching for here is 5 waves to the downside, and that's pretty much all we're working on right now. We saw wave 1, we saw wave 3 right there, and in my opinion, we're going to get one more final push to the downside, which will most likely take us back down to about $60 and maybe down to like 62, 63. What I'm watching for is this mid-range. We're just going to grab this box and move it down here. and we're going to make it green because that's really the level we're watching for. And you know, this thing could bottom earlier than that. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Personally be expecting one more low. Something to look a little bit more consistent with this. That's just kind of the way that I'm watching the market as of now. But what we're looking at here, big picture, all this really is a four-wave correction, right? So if we get out to a little bit of a bigger time frame, we're going to zoom out and see. All we've been working on, we finished wave 1 of 3 right here. This is wave 3. We finished that right here. And now we're working on wave 4. This is our 4-wave correction. Oftentimes you're going to see the wave 4 correction hold better support, which is, you know, not coincidental why we're actually seeing this same expanded flat correction playing out, because it holds better support. It never even makes a lower low inside of that wave 4. It makes a higher high. That shows you how much more momentum is actually in the market. So assuming we make one more low back down to $60, say, that's where I think we're going to be finishing our wave 4 before we still end up having one more push to the upside. And this is where I think that we're going to make a run up to about $95. And in my opinion, that's going to be my main target. It's possible we get some crazy wave 5 that extends all the way up to the tops of these lower high levels like I have talked about. But when you're gauging a wave 5, you're better off just taking profits more early, because if you're trying to predict that we're going to have some overextend wave 5, like nobody really knows if that's going to happen. It's like it was in the same thing with the last cycle. I thought we were going to have a blow off top, but that wave 5 just ended up barely making a new high. So we have to be aware of these things. Sometimes a lot of the time inside of Elliott wave theory, the wave 1 and the wave 5 will be about the same size. And so that's kind of what I'm gauging moving forward from this. You know, the wave 5 can overextend. Sometimes it's as big as wave 3. Sometimes it's bigger than both of those combined. And I'm not trying to necessarily, you know, bet on that 100% because I don't know how it's going to play out. I think that as we've made this run up, even if we come all the way up to the top of this lower high, I'm not personally taking any profits because I bought what I bought as a sit it and forget it long-term buy. I bought it at the cycle low. I did not care if it, you know, goes a little lower. I didn't care if it shoots up 300%. I was going to sell it at the end of the cycle, and that's kind of what I'm watching here. The big thing that I'm seeing inside of the market is the fact that if Salon has been leading, it's been leading the breakout, it's been leading the charge, it's been leading the high cap cryptos. I honestly think that the way that this is setting up, being this expanded flat correction, all we're about to see is just one more low before we end up making another high in the process. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Chainlink, because Chainlink and Solana have really been outperforming the majors as of late, and I think that that's a trend that's only going to continue to play out from here. When we're looking at both of these, they've done the same thing. Both of them finished a wave 1, and we're working inside of this wave 3. I believe that both of these have finished their wave 3, and they're in the exact same consolidation, being this 4-wave correction. Now, I still think that both of these are going to be going for one more high. I've always told you guys that I think Chainlink is going to be running all the way up to the top of this resistance being $19.50, and I still think that that's going to be the case. It could even extend a little higher like we talked about with Solana. We can't predict how big the wave 5 is going to get, but I think that $19.50 approximately, wherever that's at, is the best area to be targeting. And all we're looking at is the same correction that Salon is going through, and maybe even a better version of that, I guess you could argue. Let's remove that resistance. Let's pull this up because it shows exactly what's kind of playing out inside of the market. So remember, we're inside of this wave 4 correction. So if we're comparing both of these as an expanded flat, we should expect to see an ABC down, which is what we saw right there. And then we saw another A, B, and C back up. The difference is the secondary one clears the range high. And that's the same thing that Chainlink did. The only difference was this high above the range was smaller than Solana. Solana made this great big wave all the way back up, whereas Chainlink didn't. It was just a smaller one. And then we've seen a correction back down. But when I'm looking at Chainlink, I see wave 1, I see wave 3, but it kind of looks like we still need to go a little bit lower. And when I'm looking at Chainlink, because it's already gone so much lower, we're already in the mid-range where you would expect it to bottom. But we can still go a little bit lower. In my opinion, coming back down to like $13.78, or maybe all the way back down to near the range lows being like $13.30. That's where I'm watching for Chainlink to bottom. And from there, we'll find that support. Wherever that ends up being, I don't know exactly. We're going to make this green though so you guys can identify it as support. So that's what we're mainly going to be looking at, because all of this is showing that we're just waiting for this final little correction to come in here before we start that final impulse back up, a new set of 5 waves up. And that's what I'm going to be watching for when it comes time for Chainlink, because I've continued to tell you guys that I still think that we've got one more high coming. And when I look at the LA wave count, it still looks like we've got one more high. The only difference is we're just getting a little short-term correction in here inside of this wave 4 before we push into one more final move. I'm still sticking to the same analysis. I think the market's going to drag up a little bit higher. We've already seen Salon and Chainlink leading the market, and anytime you have certain majors that are leading the market, they're also going to reverse sooner than Bitcoin will. So if you might not know what Bitcoin is going to do, it's already made such a big move. You know, even though these have also made a pretty big move, in my opinion, what we're really looking at is the end of this correction to be in here fairly soon, if not now. That's kind of what I'm watching for the majority of these. And if these are already getting close and at the ending stages, maybe one more low before this reversal sets in, that means the rest of the market is also going to be breaking out too. Now, one of the things we talked about in yesterday's video was the potential of this being a breakout and a retest of our range high. We have been inside of this consolidation for a long period of time. This range high taking us all the way back into August. We made a lower high below that being in April, but we have successfully broke out of both of those and made our first higher high. This is coming after an over 500-day kind of this big rounded bottom accumulation, I guess you could say. So we're wondering if we're going to hold support right here. I don't find it coincidental that when we're looking at the two leaders of the cycle so far, and I know that there's other cryptos out there that have been leading, like Injective, some of the other ones that have been doing good, but I'm mainly talking about the high caps that were around from the last cycle. What we're seeing is the total market cap breaking out, the total altcoin market cap breaking out. When we're seeing the two majors looking like they still have another leg up, I look at the total market cap and I can't help but just think that this is also going to be taking another leg up. The only difference is when we're looking at the total, there's literally no resistance pretty much this entire area right here, this entire range. There's pretty much nothing here. It's just clear skies above. So I would expect a pretty significant markup, like a relatively quick markup, to take place if this truly is the breakout. And when I'm looking at the majors that have outperformed, generally when they come into the ending of their wave 5 along with Bitcoin, if Bitcoin makes one more leg up before a correction, it's usually in that final leg up where you see all of the meme coins blow up, where you see all of the crazy money, the euphoria come back into the market. So if we're kind of seeing that all of these are showing that we've got one more move coming before that is the true top, at least in the short term of this uptrend, I think it's important that we factor in how, there's probably going to be a decent amount of profit to be made in the short term. But once again, if we're seeing some of those narratives kind of blowing up, we're seeing a lot of funny money flowing around and people acting crazy like what always happens in a euphoric time, I think that most likely we should do our part by taking profits. Right now isn't the time to take profits. I'm not taking any profits necessarily. If you're up a significant margin on some low cap altcoin, of course take profits. But when we're looking at the majority of the altcoins, the majors, so to speak, these things are just barely breaking out. And all of them are showing that they've got at least one more move coming to the upside for continuation. So I'm kind of still betting on that trend. Anyways, guys, I think that this is an opportunity to buy the dip. I think it's nothing more than that, even with this correction. So we're going to watch the market. I'll keep you guys updated. If something changes, I'll keep you guys in the loop. With that being said, guys, if you did find value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos or updates that I end up making. You guys can check out my socials, link below in the description, or if you guys want to end up seeing how I invest in the market, any trades that I take going over this cycle, you could have bought Salon with us at the bottom. All of the signals were given there. We're already up a significant margin in all of those holdings. So there was a number of altcoins we bought that are already up a lot in profit. If you guys ever want to check those out, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up for my group. Thank you all so much. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.